At least they're not panelists, huh? I thought they joined, otherwise it's just you and me.
No, it's still, we still have 4 minutes, but we're good.
Hi, Layla.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, everyone. We're just waiting for Emma, our panelist, and we'll make a start in a couple of minutes. Nice to see you, Wes. Bye. All right, welcome everyone. I think we can make a start. We have our panelists, and I'm very happy to see so many of you. Just for those of you who don't know me, my name is Leila Gaibova, and I work as a lecturer in the International and European Law program here at the Hague University. So, along with my colleague, Mr. Syed Altamash Halil, we're going to organize this panel on legal tech, which is part of the employment and network event that we're organizing at the Hague University every year. So the idea is that we invite speakers who share their knowledge and experience about various topics pertaining to law. So this time we're very fortunate to welcome three absolutely wonderful speakers, experts in legal tech that I will introduce to you, and then we'll give the floor to them to introduce themselves and speak a bit about their experiences. So we have Mr. Shak Ashraf. He is the co-founder of Legal Technology and Innovation Institute. We also have with us today Mr. Tobias Badura. He works at Bridgestone in their legal team. And finally, we have Ms. Emma Dobos, and she's a senior legal engineer at Elevate. Now, as I said, the idea is that you get to grips with legal technology because, of course, we understand that we have students from first year, second year, third year, and so on and so forth. So what we will do first is we'll talk a bit about legal technology just to make sure that everyone is on the same page and you actually understand what it entails, because it seems to us that there is some confusion about it. So some students seem to conflate the terms, let's say, law and technology, legal technology, law technology. It's not necessarily the same thing. So we will try to sort of demystify this for you. Then we will talk about careers in legal tech, more specifically, what kind of skills employers are looking for and what options are available to you once you complete your studies here at the Hague University. And lastly, we will talk about what it means to be a T-shaped lawyer. So again, if this is a concept that you're not necessarily familiar with, don't worry too much about it. We will try to explain it to you so that you have a better understanding of what it means and what it actually means to be the lawyer of the future. Now, I would like to give the floor to our speakers if they could briefly introduce themselves and let us know what kind of job they do and whatever they find interesting to share. So let's start with you, perhaps, Tobias.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Leila. Hello, everyone. My name is Tobias Badura, and I'm part of the legal department. I'm based in Poznań, in Poland. I'm originally Polish, and I was lucky enough to join the Bridgestone at 2019 in the summer, and since day one, I was involved within the legal tech matters at Bridgestone, and lucky enough to be part of the team to kick off with the fully operational and an official global legal tech committee at the global organization. So to introduce the legal tech topics from zero knowledge to some knowledge, at least, to introduce some tools for lawyers to make their life a bit more warm and cozy. That's why we created such a body at the organization, and we debate about what kind of improvements we can introduce at the global level, what kind of improvements we can scale up from the regional areas, because it's sometimes tough to forget that people have some solutions at the local level, but not everybody knows that it could be easily scaled up to the general fields. So that is my main role, and also apart from introduction, cool innovative things, I'm also spreading the knowledge and awareness about the legal tech, because that is a constant process of teaching and learning and getting to know the process and stuff about the legal tech, because that's the initial thing to plant that seed to lawyers to get to know, get familiar with that kind of topic. So that's just why we are here also today to share with you a bit of a glimpse of the work. So
great, thank you very much. Emma?
Hi everyone. Can I just check that you hear me?
Yes, so we can see you, we can hear you. All good.
Perfect. So I'm Emma. I'm a civil engineer at Elevate, as Leila has just introduced me. So my work focuses on service design, service improvement, and technology enablement within the team. So on a daily basis, I would say that I identify opportunities to improve the legal services, and then I design the solutions, and I make sure that they're also adopted by the users. I want to give a bit of background actually in terms of my education as well, just because probably a lot of you will have similar education background. So I have done a 4-year European International Law degree at the University of Sheffield, and I've also done a master's at the same university. And my first private job actually was in Luxembourg, where I've done an exchange year. And immediately after that, when I finished my degree, I've also worked as a paralegal at DLA Piper, which some of you may or may not know. It's an international law firm. I would say that was kind of the moment in my life when I realized that I didn't want to become a lawyer, even though I thought for so many years that I wanted to become a lawyer. And when I got more into legal technology, what that means, what are the tools, and who are the people that are actually driving this. And after about, I think, 6 months, if I'm not wrong, I joined Wavelength, which is a law firm of legal engineers. And in there is where I had my first job as a legal engineer and where I learned pretty much everything that I do nowadays. And after 3 years as a legal engineer, I've also joined Ashurst very briefly, and now I am here at Elevate. I don't know if I should go now into everything that the legal engineer means, Leila, so please do let me know if I want to go there, or if not, we can talk a bit later about what that means.
I think we can talk about it a bit later, but thank you so much. That's very interesting. Shaq?
Thanks, Leila. Look, I've got a bit of a cough, so if I have a coughing fit, then Tobias or Emma can take over. But look, a pleasure to be here. So I'm the managing director of Forte Markets and the founder of the Legal Technology and Innovation Institute. So look, I'm a technologist, right? So a non-lawyer. The lens I look at this space is, the holy trinity of tech, which is legal tech, fintech, and reg tech. I've been involved in the tech space purely because transformation and complex technology projects are my forte, and a number of our clients are in this space. And naturally, I saw a big gap in the market that the law schools are missing, which was what I call chalk and talk, as opposed to the hands-on stuff. And hence, we launched the institute last year, and it's overwhelmingly purpose to build a global ecosystem around legal technology, improve collaboration. So we kind of have this educate, collaborate, and innovate kind of slogan. A couple of my alumni are here as well, as in Leila and Tobias. So they're full-on experts on legal tech now. But yeah, look, happy to be here and shed some light on what is, for me, the future of the legal industry. And one of the challenges we see is that the old school lawyers still find it hard to accept, but it is beginning to kind of disrupt and transform what is a legacy industry. Back to you, Eva.
Thank you very much. Great. Just before we jump into our discussions, I want to invite you to ask your questions on the chat. Should you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. We're happy to answer them throughout, or maybe once we wrap up our discussions. But in any case, as I said, I think it's important that we're all on the same page, in a sense that we understand what legal technology actually is and perhaps what it's not. So if you could, not necessarily provide a definition, because of course we have different definitions and that doesn't necessarily help, but just how you understand in your own words, and also give us some use case or some examples of legal tech. I think that would help a lot to actually have a better appreciation of what it is. So perhaps Shaq, if you take the floor.
Sure. Look, so look, you'll see a number of terms branded about, which is law tech, legal tech. legal technology. The way I approach it is literally, there's two verticals. There's law tech, which is your consumer orientated kind of vertical where people are looking at improving access to justice, how legal services can be improved or accessible to larger part of the world. And the stats around this are pretty staggering when you look into it in terms of how many people would prefer not to go down the route of seeking justice purely because there's lack of access, lack of the costs. So that is for me law tech, right? And that's where you've got the Hill, the Hague Institute that does a lot of stuff around access to justice, innovation, and ultimately there's an immense satisfaction in being part of that space. And that's where, from a practical example, your legal marketplaces will come in terms of lawyers on demand, that has significantly challenged the billable hour and the fees an individual would pay to access justice. Then you've got legal tech, which for me is the transformation side, right? That is, as a lawyer, what you would use to transform internally or the services you provide to your clients, which is in-house lawyers or corporates, etc. So they're the two pieces. And if you look at from a legal tech perspective, that's where you'll see contract automation, e-discovery, chatbots, the whole crypto space. And that's where there's a lot of investment at the moment. But still, we're at the tip of the iceberg, right? 95% of the areas that we're involved with and the clients, and because we've got a global view, right? Each of our cohorts, and especially through the institute, covers 15 to 20 different countries. Everyone is kind of stuck in that document management, contract automation space as an overwhelming kind of development. There are obviously, where you've got exciting startups, and it's interesting that Emma's ex-Wavelength, these are exciting startups that have then been, for me, swallowed up by the larger law firms, right? So Simmons came in and took over, Wavelength. So how they maintain that autonomy is a question to be asked. But so that's my view, right, of the two. So access to justice, and then the transformation side in terms of law firms and in-house legal departments. Over to Emma or Tobias to add their views. Yeah.
Was that going to jump in?
Or? Yes, sure.
I would say, Shak, thank you very much. I think that's a very good description, because I think everybody nowadays kind of struggles to define it, not to make it too limited, but at the same time not too vague for someone to understand. I would add to it from my own experience. I think there is now a trend of people looking at processes. I think we kind of, or at least some firms have now already gone over the phase of just looking at technology as a driving thing, just let's buy technology and let's implement it, because that they realize it doesn't work. So I would say for me, legal tech also looks a lot at the process themselves within either law firms or legal departments within corporations. And for example, my role is pretty much this, is to look at processes and see how we can improve them. And when I look at process, I would say, first of all, I look at people to see what they do, how they do it. And I would say technology, even though legal tech has the technology word within it, for me, technology is actually quite far behind. First of all, we need to understand the process and how that works, and then see what technology they use, compare it to alternative solutions, look what's out there in first of all, the legal tech space, in the sense of technologies built for the legal industry. But at the same time, again, I see a trend with people starting to use technologies that are not built for the legal system, but can actually be used because they have the same use case at the end of the day. So that would be kind of my addition from my daily work, I would say.
And I would, I would just add on to the things that Shak said about being on the top of the iceberg, because indeed we are, since the legal tech most likely touches the biggest players on the market, right? So the biggest law firms, biggest law departments from the biggest organizations, and we have a lot of area to cover by the medium or small law firms, which cannot cover all of the costs, because legal technology sometimes is even maybe requires a lot of documents to process that smaller law firms simply doesn't have to process, or use cases that are only available for a large place. So we are just at the very beginning of seeing a birth of a very great and exciting area of industry, which is the legal tech. And apart from, of course, together with the fintech, insurtech, which goes in parallel for the finance applications, are very, let's say, popular, such as payment applications or insurtech for the insurance stuff. So the same goes with the legal tech, and also it is good point to remind that lawyers, law firms, and legal departments are one of the most, not maybe stubborn, but hardly keen to implement any innovation. Very safely. They have very safe attitude about innovation technology, so everything goes with the proper distance to get to know the technology very well, and to ask a lot of questions whether there is something such important and necessary to implement. So there are some obstacles also to overcome, but being at this particular moment, it's just a beginning of a big change at the legal industry. So exciting times.
Yes, definitely exciting times, especially for you guys, since you'll be graduating, well, some of you very soon, but others in 4 years' time. And this is such an evolving field that you really need to make sure that you step up your game and understand what it is, and understand, if you're curious, of course, in pursuing this career, what it takes. Now, perhaps, Saltamash, I can give the floor to you, and you can ask more questions about career opportunities and what you can do as a student.
Thank you, Ms. Kaibova, and thank you to all our panelists here. I'm a third-year law student at this university, and like me, there are many students here. My peers have taken, we have minors in cybersecurity, in legal tech. So, and at this point, at this juncture in our educational career, there's always a pertinent question that students have. If we want to pursue a career in this sort of field of legal tech, what is the sort of background? What are the skill set that would require to delve into this particular side of the game? So the question essentially to all the panelists is, since you all have a different and diverse skill set that you all bring to the table, what is the sort of background or the skill set that one would need if he or she or they would want to pursue a career in legal tech or legal ops? And to prevent any awkward silence, what if we go with a particular sequence? So I'd like Ms. Dobos to go first, and then Mr. Ashraf, and followed by Mr. Badra, if that's okay.
Sure.
Hello, that is a very good question. To be honest, I don't think there is a straight answer to it. I personally, because I kind of found my path quite organically, I would say, I would normally advise everybody to do the same. I can actually give the example of the paralegals that I work with. So in our team, I think we have about 30 paralegals, and some of them are actually just wanting to become lawyers, so they just focus on the legal advice and just doing a good job at that to get a training contract and so on. But other ones I work actually very closely with because they're more interested in improving what they do, and I can actually spot quite easily who would be the people that would want to become already quite good legal engineers. Because first of all, they understand, they look at the process. Again, for me, sorry, everything, I will be repeating this again and again about the process, that they look at their job not as something that they just have to deliver this Word document or this Excel. They're actually thinking through why, first of all, is there a better way of doing it? Is there a quicker way of doing it? What impact does it have on somebody else if they get them in the team to do it with them, and so on? So I would say, first of all, you need to make the balance between who your users are, what technology you can use, and what do you do with the data. And again, the paralegals that I work with, the one that I work very closely with in terms of the services that we provide, have a look at all of this. And most of the people will actually come with ideas to me. So while my daily job is to identify these opportunities and so on, I actually appreciate when people have ideas themselves. And the idea doesn't have to be like, oh, I dreamt this massive thing and we want to do this big thing. It's just something simple as, look, I do this every month. It's quite boring. I'm not happy about it. I do this. I press the same button all the time. This already is the start of something that we can work with. So I would say being creative and learning what you like. And here I'm just going to take it to something else. So I think legal engineers, and at least the ones that I've met, all of them have a thing that they like. And I know that when I was your age, and many people would just tell me, find the thing that you like. This is very vague. You cannot just find the thing that you like. I would say to give it time and to get a job rather than just waiting to see what you like. So do you like working with data? Do you like process? Do you like technology? I would say just get a job, just work as a paralegal. I think this is a very good start. At least it was for me, and the people that I see are growing as legal engineers is a good start for them. And when you get there, just make sure you don't just focus on doing your job, just doing the thing that you're being told. Do your job better. Question the things that you're asked to do. Talk to foreigners. Listen to the people that are doing something better. And by learning on the job, you're going to see what you like. So, for example, myself, quite early on, I became so focused on this idea of improving what we do that I did the business analysis course. So I'm a qualified business analyst, because all the time I don't just look, what does the user want this? I actually look at the big picture. I look at the business. Will the business be able to fit this kind of need? Do we have the budget? Is this the right technology? And so on. And I've done quite a bit of consultancy already on, for example, the contract lifecycle management. And that was, for example, for me, the place to practice it. But if I never got to be a paralegal, I would never actually get there. So that's why I found it was quite organic for me, and it was not something quite forced, I would say. I understand now, and I know Leila told me as well that now there are degrees in legal technology, and I have not done a degree myself, so I'm not entirely sure what you would exactly learn there. I think that is also a good start because, for example, I remember at Wavelength, when we were hiring legal engineers, some of them that would have experience, obviously that would be quite important. But at the same time, just having ideas, like I will very easily be able to spot if someone has a creative mind, if you're a lot into collaboration, how do you collaborate, how do you listen? I think these are things that you can tell quite easily. And I'll just finish so that I don't talk for the whole hour by saying that there's actually quite a few tools out there that are, again, labeled as legal technology tools that will give students like free access, like trials to learn. I would say that is a good thing. When you have time, just go onto this kind of tools. Just learn how do you use, how do you build a questionnaire? How do you automate a document? Again, this is not going to be it's not like a proper 1-year experience in a law firm, but it's going to help you quite a lot when you want to get a job. And any sort of events, anything to do with legal tech. And this is the way I got into it. I got into an organization called Legal Hackers. That's how I got into it. I spoke to people about it. I attend events. I started organizing events, and I'm just here doing my job now. That will be kind of my start. I'm happy to, if you have any other more specific questions about something, I'm happy to answer. That will be kind of my overview of it.
Thank you very much, Emma. I think we have a question on the chat from Ramona. Oh, no, she raised her hand. Ramona? Don't see it anymore. But in any case, if you have questions, please let us know. And since you mentioned that, legal tech is something that you obviously didn't study at the University of Sheffield because that was not part of the curriculum. If I may, Altamash, I just want to ask a follow-up question because I'm curious, looking back, because we studied together. We read our bachelor's in International European Law at the University of Sheffield. So looking back, what do you think they could have taught us? Of course, you mentioned some software that you can just, get to grips with and try to have fun with that. But perhaps you have something else in mind, as in what exactly law schools can teach students? How can they incorporate, let's say, legal tech skills into their curriculum? Do you have anything in mind?
Probably I would have to think this through quite a lot to give a good answer. My quick answer would be, I would say use cases. I would look at what frustrations some lawyers have and how you can solve them through improving the process or using technology. And I know, again, there are certain technologies, I think, for example, at the University of Sheffield, the guys from Kira went on and then they showed students how that works. So I'll find this kind of demos, but demos through use cases would be quite helpful for them to understand. And I know that, for example, when I went into practice, this was the first thing that kind of hit me. There was a lot of technology that I had no idea what it did. So that's probably where I would start if you want to just talk about legal tech as technology. But there's a lot of just business and process skills that I think would be very well taught in university.
Okay, that's really cool because that's actually something I had in mind. And so in one of our modules in the Legal Tech and Innovation Institute, we actually had a use case, and it was extremely helpful in legal ops just to get to grips with it. Perfect, Altamash.
Yes, thank you. So before we move further, let's get back to the question that Ramona was supposed to ask. So Ramona, if you could turn on your mic and direct your question.
Yes, do you hear me? All right, thank you. My name is Ramona Todor. I'm a first-year student about to graduate, and I have also wrote my thesis in a field related to legal tech on legal design for consumer protection. And I'm now in a dilemma, and I'm wondering whether I should pursue like what would be better when it comes to a job application in 2 years, let's say. Would it matter more if for the next year I will be getting a job in legal tech, or if I will gain practical experience, or if I would be following a master's in law and technology in Europe? I'm just wondering which one of these is more valued as experiences when you're applying for a job, the master's or the practical job. Thank you.
So Frank, if you want to take the question, please. So I don't want to be talking the whole time for everyone just to hear my voice.
Sure.
Otherwise, I'm happy to answer.
Sure. So I'm a practical person, let's say. So when I started my studies and going to law school since first year, I started doing the practices since the first year. So I had like basically zero legal knowledge, but I went to the law firm, work for that to see how the process goes and how the works of the lawyer looks like. So after 5 years, I saw basically a couple of law firms have gained a lot of experience and been there, done that. So I always recommend the practical knowledge, and also why the practical knowledge, because if you would also afterwards to become a legal tech person, the practical knowledge will allow you to understand what is the job of lawyers at a daily basis. So you could easily fit into the lawyer's shoes and to feel their problems, because you were able to feel them also, experience them also on your tasks, performing, drafting the documents, sharing the legal advices to the clients, or having a lot of negotiation talks to compress within 10-15 minutes for each, for instance. So that would give you a bit of better standing point from my point of view. I have that knowledge, and I love that knowledge, because I know what lawyers think, how do they think, and where I can improve and how I should do that. So that is a kind of experience that you will not learn on the courses, or you will not learn somewhere over here, but it will give you an added value that will get you profits afterwards if you could proceed with the legal tech career. So my vote is very, very up to this.
I think it's always chicken and egg, right? Experience is vital, and having some sort of benchmark education in that. Now, to be honest, one of the reasons I set up the Legal Technology and Innovation Certificate is because the law schools, the LLMs, this is being recorded, so I won't say anything that's too sensitive. But I think the LLMs that are in the market are just not good enough, right? I've had students or working lawyers that have joined the program that have spent a considerable amount on an LLM, and they've found what we cover is purely hands-on practical knowledge, right? So ideal situation for you, Ramona, would be to kind of ensure that if you do pursue the master's route, you challenge them and you say, what do I learn in terms of tools and explicit skills that I can show an employer, that I can come in and run an automation project, I can come in and run a collaboration, a version control, literally, whether that's Microsoft 365, e-discovery, Contract Express, whatever in terms of tools. Ideally, a bit of, a full-time job with a part-time qualification would be the best, right? Because look, it's not like a law degree that it gives you that endorsement, like doing an LLM in legal tech will get you a job, right? They're not really that recognized at the moment, right? People are looking for, people with practical skills, people like Emma that have moved into that space, who have organically, built up the skill sets. So it's get hands on straight away, and if you really want to study, then do it part time, but get a job, right? Get a job in this space, and it's funny Emma mentioned paralegals because I've got a regtech startup that we're working on, and it's all around compliance in law firms, and one of the best resources I've got on that project is a paralegal, who really understands processes, understands the legal landscape, is diligent, and understands how to bring everything together. So, it's for me, a bit of both, ideally. But if you had to make a hard choice, then get a job in legal tech and build your skill sets, because it's such a vast space. You won't pick your niche until you've been in there for a few years, right? And you don't want to limit or pigeonhole yourself too early, right? Whether that's contracts or commercial awareness or transformation and look, process mapping is probably one of the best places to start. Look, I'm a change management guy, and we've run divestments and transformations across some of the largest banks. And funny enough, I used to work at ING in Amsterdam a lifetime ago, and it is the best way to approach change is to understand your processes, understand your current landscape, understand your people, understand what you need, then talk about technology. If you talk about technology too soon, you're always going to start, struggling because your operating model is not ready.
Yeah, I just want to take a last part of Shaq's speech. We have very similar motto at Bridgestone, that we don't want to introduce technology, we want to solve problems. Yes, so technology is just a tool that helps solving a problem. So initially, as Shaq said, and we have also the same understanding, try to understand the pain points, the struggles that people are dealing with. What would they imagine their dream work would look like? In the perfect world, how they would like to work? How what is a pain for them? What they don't like? What should be cut? What should be introduced? And the technology is just a tool to help them achieve a better work experience. That is our role, to make their work a bit more, or a lot of more pleasant and nice.
And you've got a lot of legal tech startups, right, in Holland. So, as well as being the fifth and sixth, largest kind of legal services market in Europe, you've got firms like Legal or Legal Matters and Clocktomizer and LexIQ. So you've got a lot of opportunities to pick up the phone and ring them and get a short fire internship over the summer. Trust me, I always have one or two interns on all the time, because I think fresh talent outside of a university or even existing students are some of the best people you can find. And two of my permanent members of staff now started off as an internship, and when they were in their second years, and they always continue to do part-time stuff for me. And now I know that they know legal tech better than most lawyers in the legal market. So pick up the phone, ring these startups, and you'll be surprised how open they are for an idea to bring in some fresh talent.
No, thank you. And I believe the question was really well posed, because that sort of encompassed what was already posed. So thank you to all the panelists for answering that. And there's a question by Anna. I think with what you mooted, Mr. Usher, where could we find these startups that you mentioned? Is the question.
There's a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a couple of names. I mean, I'm totally mental blank at the moment, but I'll put them on the chat. But there's some really good legal technologists from Holland, right? They've got blogs, they've got startups themselves. I've just mentioned a few startups there. So I'll ping the details to Leila if I don't get them on this chat before the end of the panel. But yeah, look, you are in a really hot market. I mean, you'd be surprised how forward-thinking a lot of the Dutch startups are. Even probably, in the UK, we've got you've got the several law societies around the UK that are, promoting legal tech. Then you've got the Central Legal Law Society. You've got Law Tech UK. You've got probably far too many in silo. So bringing them together is a challenge. But I think from a Dutch perspective, you've definitely got. So you've got Hill as always, right? So Kane and Drew from Hill, is a massive enabler of innovation in access to justice. She's on my faculty on the legal tech certificate, and they do a lot of exciting stuff. And they're in The Hague, so I'm happy to make an intro to Kanan and Layla. Probably, you've been taught by her, so you know her in any case. But definitely in Amsterdam, there's a good few startups. So and they're 90%. I would suspect that if you reached out to them, they'd be happy to give you some work experience. Otherwise, reach out to me. There's a number of startups that are involved in the Legal Tech Institute from different parts of the world that we can, make introductions and they can, give you some experience. One of our members, Clinton, he's an A-list in legal tech. He loves it. He owns the Legal Tech Product Channel on LinkedIn. So have a look at that and have a look at some startups on there. And if there's any particular startups, drop them a message on there. Otherwise, drop me a message and I'll introduce you to Clinton so you can get first down. I'm sure Emma and Tobias will give you some pointers as well.
Yeah, to be honest, if I can give in here my example, I also had, to be honest, quite a bit of trouble looking for this kind of job at the beginning, probably also because I wasn't sure exactly what I was looking for. But the way I went about it, again, very organic, is that I just made connection with quite a few people in the startup area, just legal tech in general. And actually, my first job was literally by just messaging Pete, who was the CEO of Wavelength, and just starting a conversation. You will actually find, or at least what I found throughout this year, is that these people are actually quite easy to approach. And as Shaka said, I think a lot of them appreciate like new voices, like talent just from university, because if you want a job in this area, you'll probably be quite challenging for them. And again, what I found when I started working with people that are new to the environment, that when you first start, that's when most of your ideas come up, because you see a new ways of working, you see something that probably you're not exposed to at all during university. So I would say to just reach out to people. I'm pretty sure that most of them will be very supportive or just guide in the right place. And I'm the same. If you need any introduction or any help, just reach out to me, and I'm happy to guide you in the right direction, make some connections.
Thank you both, Mr. Ashraf and Ms. Bovis. Mr. Badura, if you'd like to contribute to the question that I posed earlier about the type of background skill set one would require to pursue a career in legal tech or legal ops.
Sure. So maybe halfly serious, halfly not serious. To be for sure a bit of a nerd, since I always like that kind of answer when somebody asks me about my role and my background. So I'm always saying that I'm a bit of a nerd because I like technology and I like to improve some small things within the process. So a part of being a lawyer or being the program is because you can have those two and become a legal tech specialist on those cases. But in terms of the skills and the, let's say, features of a person, so I would imagine that you have to have the driver to love to improve some small things within your daily process, daily tasks that you perform. So if you see that you find yourself that you constantly search to improve the things you are doing, and I'm not even particularly say that on the computer, but on your daily life. So you want to improve your work to home, your that you go from school to home, or you want to improve the way you eat, and you constantly search for that kind of, let's say, perfection. I believe that kind of work is for you, because it requires a lot of, as Emma said, and I completely agree. You have to be very creative person to meet the goals and meet the expectations, because most likely you will not find the answer on the internet. at this particular moment at the legal tech. So you just sit in the front of blank screen at the computer and think what you could do to help that person with that particular problem. So creativity, and to be open that there are no boundaries between within your ideas and the creation. Also, having in mind that you need to use particular tools and know their, let's say, boundaries and their capabilities, but you have to able to facilitate them in a proper way and have that driver of always ready to improve something. So because it is honestly a process improvement position, right? But particularly for lawyers. So maybe you can switch that kind of process of sending this email at this way, or maybe this contract should be driven by that way. I know I'm speaking about more general things, but it's a lot of we say in Polish that it's a lot of ant work because it is all about small things that you have to be very detailed and to see and to map the processes and to make all of those checkpoints, name them and visualize them and to help understanding what if you could skip some checkpoints, or what if you could introduce a brand new role to accomplish something. So it is required by very various of skills, but from my point of view, and I think Emma will agree with me, it gives a lot of pleasure to accomplish those tasks because it is just pure fun.
Thank you, Mr. Badura. That was quite insightful. And before I pass the floor over to Ms. Kaibova, I see there's an interesting question posed here in the chat. And the question is as follows: to what extent do you think legal tech is disrupting existing legal jobs? So if anybody would like to start off with that and give their...
I think massively, right? I think 5 years ago, I was given a technology awareness session to about 20 managing partners in Dubai. And it was at that point, it was fintech was the craze, and it was all in, some of them absolutely loved it, but there was a handful that were like, why is a non-lawyer training us about technology, right? So it was that old school mentality that only lawyers deal with lawyers and, not with anyone else. Now, since then, legal engineers, legal project managers, legal designers, solutionists, architects, all these roles have really ramped up. So now lawyers have to learn how to interact with non-lawyers, and it just shows you that law firms have set up dedicated technology divisions to look at transformation. Previously, it was all about IT support, right? And it was similar to corporates, right? 20 odd years ago when I did an internship, I worked in an IT department for a large music company, and we were a support function. Now when you look at any corporate, technology is a critical function. And it took law firms another 10 years to realize that without technology, they'll be obsolete. So there are massive changes to legal jobs. I think one is new types of roles being developed. I think then the other side of the coin is that as a lawyer, if you don't future-proof your skills, you'll be obsolete in 5 years' time, right? It's fact, right? So, and in the last 5 years, we've been in this Legal Tech 101 kind of Groundhog Day, where everyone's talking about Legal Tech 101, Legal Tech 101. That's one of the reasons I kicked off the Institute, because I said, enough of that. Let's start giving lawyers access to technology and tools so they see how things work, they see what they're like, and they start implementing and executing. So there's an interesting report from the Law Society that came out at the end of last year, which was, some of the stats were like, 50% plus of legal jobs will be replaced by AI. You know, it was a pretty scary statistic. I think it was even more than that. And I think it's giving people, I think they were probably a bit too extreme, but there was a report in 2018 from Deloitte which was saying, you know, over the next 10, 20 years, over 100,000 legal jobs will be automated. Now, if you, depending, you know, obviously you're students, so you'll be great at research. So have a look at an old JP Morgan project called COIN, COIN. And it was one of the first ones that I started to talk about in 2018, where they literally implemented automation of contracts at a very lower level. And they proved that 360,000 hours of mundane legal activity can be replaced by just using a tool. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it replaced lawyers. All it means is that lawyers moved, you know, the people that were handling that task moved on to more value-added activities, right? But it is a challenge, right? It is, technology will replace the lower-level task and augment the more complex activities, give you more skills. You look at data analytics, amazing, like, you know, some of the stuff that you'll see around just basic Microsoft Azure tools that you can use for free to an extent, you'll think, wow, this is amazing. So going to be big changes, right? People still, you know, I do a lot of stuff at the moment on the East Coast in the US. When you think US, you think, wow, technology front line. But I'll tell you what, you know, far from it. A lot of the law firms are way behind tech, way behind where Europe is and the Middle East and APAC. You know, some of the, you know, a good term I've always used is that law firms are like a turkey waiting for Christmas to happen, right? You know, they won't make it, you know, they won't make a move until the clients drive it. And that's what's been happening, right? In-house teams like Tobias that are becoming tech savvy and becoming advanced, they are putting pressure on the law firms to adopt technology. And the law firms have now decided, actually, we need to pick up the wavelength or the innovative startups to basically give them the skill. So big changes as far as I'm concerned. Over to Emma and Tobias.
Yeah, I can definitely add to this. Just in my daily job, I would probably, if I were to describe my role in a sentence, would be that I am disrupting the legal jobs. But I actually find that disrupting is quite negative, because I find we facilitate rather than disrupt. And as Shaka said, I think like all the lawyers do need to future-proof their work and their mindset. Because, for example, a small part of my work sometimes is to automate documents. And they are very simple documents, just standard stuff that that lawyers will have to, for example, copy-paste information. And in here, I get two different approaches. There are people that are like, yeah, definitely, I don't want to be doing this. Please automate it for me. And there's the other side, which is like, oh, you are stealing my job, and so on. And I find that as a natural part of my job is just to educate people on this stuff and to show them that, for example, even if a paralegal were to just do the copy-pasting work, if we're able to automate that, we can actually teach them so many more skills. Like, for example, how do you map the data? How do you look at data in a structured way? There's just so many things in the process as well. And it's actually, first of all, we automate, so we don't do the repetitive tasks anymore. But there's a lot of learning coming out of it as well. So I personally find that we facilitate it. So we just help them to do it better, to do it quicker. And for us, for example, for our department, every piece of job that we automate, it actually means that we're able to create more work for ourselves, because in the 10 minutes we used to do that, now it does that in 3 seconds. In the rest of the almost 10 minutes, we can actually do something else. So it's just really a perspective. But I think going forward, everybody will just have to adopt the perspective of, you know, let's improve the work rather than just do the same thing, because it's just not sustainable really for the future, I would say.
I would just add also, because I love that kind of questions about that kind of legal tech myths about replacing lawyers and stuff. If we go back, 30 years ago, when the email was introduced, people were buffering, shouting that post offices will be closed and the mailmen will lose their jobs. But 30 years later, guess what? They are still here. So it is not the part of legal tech to replace the lawyers. It is up to help the lawyers to get rid of the repetitive small tasks, as Shaq and Emma said. because you can draft an NDA for 10th, 15th time, okay, which is a very simple document, non-disclosure agreement. But if you have to the draft that same particular document for 1,000th of time, you would say, okay, I need to figure out how I can get rid of doing that the same thing and focus on the more let's say valuable things that would generate a bit of more better profits for my firm, for my clients. Okay, so legal tech is ease up those simple tasks, to get rid of them, to free up the lawyers from simple questions, from simple tasks, so they will become a true business partners to the companies, to their clients, because that is what modern market requires for them. Not only to give the legal advices, not only to give interpretations of the laws and rules and the law texts. They also have to be fluent enough to give a proper business advice, right? Because who is the most let's say have the biggest knowledge about the company from the staff? The lawyers, because they know the financial statements, they know the issues that comes from the labor issues, they know what kind of agreements company is going to sign, who is going to negotiate it with, what is the mid and the long-term plans. So it's a natural that the lawyers are going to evolve to a bit more of a business partners of a legal, also covering the legal matters, which are very, very, very important things to cover. But having that simple tasks, it's a natural to not focus on them and to let the computers do this for them. That's why they are here.
No, thank you all. I'm sure it's the question has been very rightly answered and was really helpful even to the people who were listening. So I'd pass the floor over to Ms. Gaibova to continue.
Well, thank you very much. I think students definitely have a better understanding of what legal tech is now. And I would say, especially for the latecomers, the key takeaways would be that, well, first of all, legal tech is not about introducing technology just for the sake of introducing it, but to actually know how technology can tackle certain pain points that you have already identified. And the second main takeaway for me was that if you don't future-proof your skills and mindset, I especially like that the way you formulated it, Emma, mindset now, you will struggle in 5 years. Which brings us to our next question about, let's say, the future of the legal profession and this T-shaped lawyer concept that perhaps you can shed a bit more light on. If I could ask you, Tobias, to talk about it in a bit more detail, that would be great. And then we'll give the floor to Shak and Emma.
Sorry, I didn't unmute myself. Yes. Of a glimpse of what the future lawyer is going to be. So in terms of the cooperation with the business, better understanding of the business also, and also getting rid of, once again, those simple tasks, having more time to understand the business and their needs, to give a proper legal advice, and together to furthermore business advice. So that is the initial thing from my understanding. The other thing, I think Emma has also touched this a bit, to be more familiar with the technology. So lately, not only lawyers, but staff in general has to know a bit about computers, software, how to run the software to complete their tasks. And the same goes with lawyers. They will not run away from the technology, from the easing up and speeding up the work, and also those ones who are competitive enough, who are qualified and confident enough to be competitive on the market, will also be chasing those kind of instruments, because to automatize the simple work, and they will be chasing the biggest clients with the biggest, let's say, legal issues. So that's my understanding about future lawyer, and also that is very, let's say, very popular within the corporations and organizations to be agile, an agile worker. What does it mean to be agile worker? So you plan, of course, you organize your work as at the best possible manner, but when the environment and everything is set around you changes by 180 degrees, you don't waste your time by thinking why it has changed. You simply redirect yourself to the other direction and follow through to the current stream, and proceed with completing your tasks and to deliver the best possible outcome, right? So that is the agile, of course, in Apple, because there are a lot of courses about how to be an agile, how to run a project in an agile methodology, but in a couple of sentences, I believe you can hear a bit of more similar things in 10-15 seconds.
Right. Thank you very much, Shaq.
Well, look, so T-shaped lawyer is an interesting concept, right? There was an exercise, I think, at University of Utrecht a few years ago, which was an interesting one, and I'll send you that link. It's a fun exercise where this lecturer he gave about 20 slides to a bunch of lawyers, and he said, look at these images and give me some answers. And based on the feedback, he kind of gave them a view that, okay, you're very blinkered on legal skills, or you're ready for global challenges, or you're ready for innovation. So, the concept's been branded about for a while. There's also I-shaped lawyer, there's a C-shaped lawyer, there's, a H-shaped lawyer, right? It will continue, right? But ultimately, it's all about saying that the core legal skills, the traditional legal skills, what we call them, are always needed, right? If you're going to become a lawyer, you're not going to be able to do that without, having your core skill set. And then it's about adding what we call layers of soft skills, layers of collaboration, layers of design thinking, understanding what happens in other departments. So not just thinking that, the world is centered around you as a lawyer, whether you're a private practice or an in-house kind of team. So, you need to understand, as we said, one of the models that we kind of look at is, and I can send out a snapshot, it's basically that, your STEM are your traditional legal skills, and then your T are basically your non-traditional skills, which are, commercial awareness, right? How many lawyers do we, and it's not only the legal profession, right? I'm involved in a number of businesses, and 75% of the time my accountant has turned around and said, oh, you don't want to do that business yet. It doesn't look right in terms of numbers. So the accountant is an accountant, right? He's only looking at it from number crunching perspective, but he's forgetting about everything else that, I would look at as an entrepreneur in terms of location, what's happening to the global market, where the demand's coming from. So, I don't necessarily follow his advice. And I think that's what, as a legal professional or a lawyer in the future, you need to advise your clients in terms of, what tools and technologies out there, what business opportunities out there. Look at the alternative legal service providers, how the big four accountancy firms have come into the market and started to disrupt significantly what was the magic circle or the silver circle. Now you've got PwC. The legal side is huge, and they've just launched something new called New Law, which is quite an exciting kind of proposition. Deloitte's, again, massive investment in terms of legal. It's an exciting space to be. You've got to, if you were to prioritize what to pick up, design thinking is very exciting because it gives you a totally different view of existing processes. Project management is useful. Now, no one's asking you to become expert project managers, but the kind of stuff that you, Layla, and Tobias covered in the legal tech certificate, it was about understanding the technical jargon, understanding because more often if you're a lawyer, you're going to be a sponsor of a technology project or a change project. So on that basis, you want to make sure that the technical terms that someone like Emma is using or a project manager is using, you understand these because they'll be burning your budget more often than not. So look, design thinking, commercial awareness. Commercial awareness for me should be a wrapper around everything. If you're a lawyer and you don't understand what's happening around the global ecosystem of legal technology encompassing fintech and regtech, then you're going to be left behind and you're going to have no value to your clients.
Emma? Thank you.
Here we go, the mute button. I think I completely agree. I wouldn't have that much to add to be honest. So I'm not a qualified lawyer myself, and that was quite on purpose for me. And I don't think I'll ever want to qualify simply because I find that would somehow, it would somehow affect my creativity because as I'm not so risk adverse as lawyers, I find that I can just think so much more openly in the sense of solutions, what technology, look outside. And just bring different kind of solutions. I think probably this was something that's made me quite good at my job. I can definitely put all the lawyers into two categories, like the people that are very close-minded and just want to just deliver on a report or just want to create, just give some legal advice and so on. So I can definitely tell in my job, on my daily life work, who will do something different. So for example, we are delivering these reports every month to a client, and some lawyers will just do the same thing every single month, while other ones have come up to me and said, look, for example, how can we automate it? How can we bring a conversation to the client as to what they do with the data? If we give the data to them in PDF, what do they do with it? They have to extract in there? And how can you actually help them use it somehow? For what purposes? And so on. Like just asking all of these kind of questions and having all of the skills, particularly design thinking that Shaka has already mentioned, I think that's literally essential for me. This is the way that I work, and I enjoy working with them because they don't just look at delivering something. They ask the question, probably ask the 5 whys, just again and again and again until you actually get to deliver something that's higher quality rather than just what the client would expect you to deliver. That would be my model. But I think Chuck and Tobias have already covered pretty much everything.
Thank you very much. I see that Chuck, he's shared some links on the chat, and there's a link to Legal Technology and Innovation Institute. So if you're curious and if you're thinking of pursuing the certificate program at some point, perhaps upon completion of your studies here, then please do familiarize yourselves with the curriculum. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. Maybe at a later stage, you can drop me a message, and I'm happy to share my amazing experience there. Right. Are there any further questions? Because I don't think so on the chat. I think someone asked about soft skills, but we have covered that already. Look, we have more time, so if you have questions, feel free to either unmute your mic or write them down, whatever you prefer.
One of the things I'd probably like to mention is, and I think and Tobias mentioned this earlier on, that the large firms have started to adopt technology, right? So the Allen and Overys have got legal labs, and they've got a lot of money to invest. The small to medium firms are struggling globally in terms of where to go for support, where to find the right talent. So new lawyers like yourselves, or new graduates with the right skills, are probably going to be the answer to their problem. But also understand, what I tell these firms is that don't always think about the AI and the blockchains and the really exciting stuff. There's a lot of basic stuff that you can do with Microsoft 365 or your existing technology, where you don't need to spend $50,000 or $100,000 buying Contract Express or something like that. So a really quick way to pick up some good skills is to look at Microsoft 365 and play about with this e-discovery component. It's got a good kind of SharePoint online that allows you to do collaboration, version control, document workflow management. You know, it's a really useful skill set to have, because where we cover a lot of the transformation and the innovative thinking, people forget that the Microsoft Words and the Excels and the PowerPoints, and you know, they're still quite powerful tools. And there's a lot of features that not everyone knows. So, you know, being equipped in those tools, playing about with, you know, Microsoft Azure, and there's some good learning courses out there on YouTube. So add that to your skill set, to your arsenal, because before you know it, if you go into an internship and you demonstrate some value add, you know, it could hopefully open the door up to some permanent employment very quickly. But there's a massive shortage of those that understand law and understand technology. It's a huge shortage. So hopefully you guys can plug that gap. So you're in a really exciting space. So embrace it. There's lots of, you know, obviously I'm a businessman at the end of the day, so there's a lot you can do and lots of money to be made.
Thank you very much. Any tips, perhaps? Something we haven't mentioned yet, Tobias? Emma?
I think for me,
everyone.
Yeah, no, I think to be honest, I completely agree with Shaq. I think that's the start. And to be honest, for me, I'm still at Microsoft 365, and that's enabled me even now on my job to do a lot of, for example, automation, very simple stuff, like very basic. What I generally do, for example, is that I create a flow. I use it 2-3 times, and then I just show somebody else how to use it, because it's just very easy to use. You just need to want to use it. And again, something that when I was, for example, interviewing legal engineers, and there is a shortage, just like I said, like a very big shortage of people understanding both sides of law and technology. And I think you already have one of them, right? You're studying law, so you already kind of understand how that works. Is to just do like just small courses online. Like, for example, because it's one thing to just say, I know how to automate a document, or I just heard about automation. I use it to just get a simple NDA, just download an NDA from the internet, just understand how it works, because most of the automation is actually done the same way. Most of the tools use the same principles. So being able to have this kind of a conversation, and again, this is something that I value when I talk to somebody, just someone that said, look, you know, I just took an NDA and I automate, I understand how that works. I know that when we have this kind of a job, I will be able to rely on someone. And just there's so many things. There's like, I think there is Bright that has a certification with automation. There is, I think, a Avoca that has something to do with document automation. There's so many of them that you can do. And again, it's not as a master's. It's not like a 1-year experience. But I think if you add up all of these small things, it will actually help you quite a bit. And just organizations like, let's say, Legal Hackers has been very useful for me because they have this. I think now they do just probably online events. They maybe have gone to in person, but just join this kind of organization. Just go and talk to people. Because this is the way I kind of grew most of my career, because I just spoke to the right people and they have guided me, they've mentored me in so many ways. So just find this kind of place that you enjoy. Most of the time they have food and drinks as well. It was a really good side of it, you know, to be able to talk to people, to open up. So this is what I would say, you know, just engage with people. Don't try to stay in your bubble learning things so then you can go into an interview to talk about it. Talk to people, because most of the jobs will actually come from just you making.
There's a question on the chat about the knowledge of programming, and I think that's one of those questions that comes up quite often. So I'm curious what you think. So when you say, you know, you need to learn how to use some software, do you refer to no-code or perhaps low-code software? How necessary is it? Well, at least from your experience, would the answer be no, or it depends? A classic lawyer answer, just curious.
Maybe classical. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, so maybe a classical response of lawyers. So it depends. That is most suitable for this. For instance, I'm no programmer. I have only technology drive within me. I have that characteristic of quickly understand some kind of things and to learn some things. I know how to low code, no code things. So, for instance, I have built a down rate assistant, a mobile application by no code. So it helps and gives guidance to people in case of official body getting a downgrade to the company and do a random checkup of the documentation and stuff. And it does not require any programming knowledge. But on the other hand, it could be useful. As I saw Shaq mention over the chat that smart contract, and indeed this is a very, let's say, hot topic, smart contracts, because where we are with the smart contracts, we are at the point that we don't even know at what kind of things we can facilitate smart contracts. So you could imagine at how far of the journey with smart contracts we have in front of us. So if you would like to create smart contracts, which is a code written contract, because it is, I really encourage you to know some skills about these kind of things. And on top of that, I really believe that lawyers and IT have very much in common. For instance, a contract is an application, and addendum to the contract is a simple patch. Okay, so if you operate with the right words, you will find a lot of similarities between those two professions, and but the outcome and the view is just pretty different. But at the end, it's very, very similar.
Thank you. Great. Shaq, any concluding remarks?
That's it, really. You're in an exciting space, so embrace it, make the most of it, pick up as many skills as you can, and just dive in. Right? Don't overthink it. It's a massive space. So based on your skill set, you'll find something, and whether that's a lawyer with understanding of tech or a techie understanding, having an understanding of law. Just get some experience and see where you end up.
All right. Thank you very much. We have more questions. Let me see. About JavaScript, yeah? Okay, but those are more of a technical questions. Okay, so there's one question about JavaScript. Is it a good programming language for smart contracts? Is it used in the legal tech world? I don't know if you...
I can straight away tell that I have no admin rights to answer that question. So,
what did you use in the smart contracts module in the certificate, Tobias? Wasn't it JavaScript?
I think so, but I said my JavaScript is only from the course, which was very, very well taught. But if I would recommend only JavaScript, I would feel myself.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think, Emma, this is more of an engineering question, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I can definitely have my input in here. To be honest, I have to say that I actually kind of felt the peer pressure to learn programming throughout my career, and there were some times actually when I started. So, for example, I learned how to use stuff like regex and stuff. But to be honest, I just didn't like it. So personally, I find it's a preference. So if you enjoy programming, coding, just go for it. I think it's a very good skill to have. For example, myself, because from the beginning, particularly in Wavelength, I work with data scientists. I was pretty much a translator between the lawyers and the data scientists. So I had to learn both of the languages and know when a data scientist said, I don't know, give me this thing, I knew how to ask the lawyer to give the thing. But I just not felt the need as such for me to learn. As in, it's not like I cannot do my job because I don't know how to code. I have though now, so I am able to use, as Tobias said as well, like very low code or no code platforms. And I do that on a daily basis. And that is just to enable me to do my job quicker and not rely on someone else. But as I said, for example, I'm very focused on process, on people, and I just not enjoyed coding. So I think it's a preference. That's the way I would look at it. At the moment now, I think most of the firms will have data scientists, so there will be already the skill set in there. And for example, when I was at Wavelength, there was a legal engineer that is now a data scientist because he was mentored by them. He really enjoyed it, and he realized that's the path he would like to go. So I think this is actually it's a really hot topic, I would say, at the moment, to kind of come out of I'll come out of being a legal engineer into being a data scientist because it's quite natural, because you work so much with data. But it's preference. I've not liked it. So if whoever likes it, please go for it. It's a complicated world, very useful but very complicated. So it's just up to you. If you can learn it, go for it. And I think it's actually very good to learn while you're studying something else. Because I think the moment when it clicks to you that the contract is data at the end of the day, it's an awakening moment.
When I remember having the lessons on the course about the smart contracts, when I had zero knowledge about coding, I just saw the codes within the movies about hackers, and I felt like I pretty understand what's going on because it was very well taught. So I recommend you to having that kind of professional advice about this one, because it is very tough for a person with no background, with no IT background. So I would recommend having the professional advice to see through, having all of dive deep into explanation and structured from all to the basics.
And also at the moment I'm picking obviously developers for my startup, and obviously I'm going down the route of .NET because it's a Microsoft language, and most of my clients use Microsoft. They have an enterprise license, and it embeds into the ecosystem quite well. JavaScript is obviously a powerful language because of your web development. We use it across chatbots. You use it to do practically anything. But then also Python is what a lot of my advisors are recommending to build the product that we're building. So there's always a mix and match, right? I don't think you can never go wrong with JavaScript skills. But ultimately, once you've got the principle of development language under your belt, then you can shift it to anything, right? In principle, it's the same approach and structure, right? So just if you want to play around with it, then pick up skills. You'll see a lot of the open APIs from different data sources online will have JavaScript code to allow firms to plug and play. So that gives you an idea that via the web, it's JavaScript that people are kind of leaning towards. Then you've got PHP, Python. It sort of gets a bit messy. So just don't limit yourself to one. Pick up a few skills and just crack on.
All right, thank you very much. I don't think we have any questions, but in any case, that was an extremely insightful discussion, and I took notes, learned a lot. So I'm sure that everyone has benefited from it. Tamás. Yes, thank you for being so generous with your time. And just in case you're curious, I will share all the sources that Shaq has kindly shared with us on the chat so that you can later on explore everything. So that includes, of course, the Legal Institute, the Law and Technology Institute, and other sources. And again, if you have any questions about the course, feel free to approach me, drop me a message on Teams. So thank you again. Thank you very much, Shaq, Emma, Tobias.
Thanks.
That
Thanks,
was a
Tobias.
pleasure. It was really great to hear you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.